Winnebago County and Oshkosh Media. This event will be simulcast on WOCT 101.9 FM radio. The forum may also be accessed via video streaming at oshkoshmedia.org and on the Oshkosh Media YouTube channel. I'm Margie Davey, President of the League of Women Voters and tonight's moderator. The League of Women Voters seeks to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. We never support nor oppose any political party or candidate. For more information about the League of Women Voters, you can access our website at lwvwinnebago.org. Two candidates are seeking election as the Branch 2 Circuit Court Judge for a 6-year term. Scott Wolt is the incumbent, and Lakeisha Hayes is the challenger. Joining me on the panel tonight is Karen Schneider, publisher of Oshkosh Herald. Public questions were solicited in advance. Those of you in the audience may also submit questions tonight if you wish. Just ask for a card and write it out, and they'll bring it up to me. Questions may be edited for brevity and clarity, and while we hope to cover as many as we can, we may not have enough time for all, but we'll do our best. Candidates, please keep your answers concise so that we can cover as many issues as possible in the time allowed. Our timekeeper, who I believe you've met, will give you cues. Please heed the stop sign so that I don't have to stop you, okay? This is not a debate. You'll both be given the same amount of time for the same question. And at the conclusion of the forum, if we have time, I will offer you each an opportunity to make a final statement. So we will start with your opening statements. You each have 2 minutes to summarize your background, qualifications, and your motivation for seeking election or re-election as Branch 2 Judge. Why should voters choose you over your opponent? And we'll start with you, Lakeisha, going alphabetically.
Thank you. So I always start out my introduction with letting everyone know that I'm the proud mother of 2 kids here in the Oshkosh Area School District. I have Gabriel, who is 9 years old, and Ryan, who is 6 years old. As far as my background, I arrived here in Oshkosh 26 years ago when I attended UW Oshkosh. I eventually graduated from there with a degree in finance and legal studies. Knowing that I needed to continue to work but knew I wanted to go to law school, I spent the next 6 years paying off student loans and working, and I took a job during that 6 years at the Winnebago County Courthouse, first as a court assistant to the Honorable Thomas Gritton, and then with Judge Karen Seifert, and I did that as a judicial assistant for 2 years. Then I moved to law school, attended Marquette Law School, and after that I returned to Winnebago County to practice. My areas of practice encompasses every single area of the law that a judge would preside over in the state of Wisconsin. I have been a judge, I have practice experience, and I have the judicial experience. I also have incorporated new areas of the law because I am also practicing in federal court as a litigation attorney. My motivation for running for judge is because the Supreme Court has spoken. They sent us a blaring message of the expectations that we as a community should have by our judiciary. Blaring message. And when they sent that message, that was action that they were calling on for us to vote for someone who maintains the integrity of the court, that can meet the expectations that we all have. And I'm running because not only will I meet those expectations, I will exceed them.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Scott?
Thank you for inviting me and my opponent here this evening. Accurate and meaningful information must be available to voters when making an informed choice about judicial candidates during elections. Voters also need to know whether a candidate has the essential qualities to be a good judge. I was born and raised in Oshkosh. I graduated from Oshkosh West High School and the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. I credit my family and our community with shaping the person I am today. It is from them which I gained my commitment to hard work, dedication, and the courage to fight in the face of adversity. I have served Winnebago County as Circuit Court Judge Branch 2 since 2004. My hard work protecting our community isn't finished. I presided over 190-plus jury trials and have handled more than 30,000 cases through disposition. I have established rehabilitative programs as chair of the Safe Streets Committee, which I started, and plan to continue my advocacy for the people of Winnebago County. I also started the Winnebago County Drug Court, which I presided over for 10 years. I developed programs which require mandatory treatment for OWI offenders. These programs reduce crime while saving the taxpayers their hard-earned income. Experience has taught me that the major issues facing our criminal justice system centers around drugs, alcohol, and mental health. The revolving door of relapse and reincarceration is the mantra of the past. Today we need to treat the root causes of crime, which is addiction and the lack of treatment. When you're a judge, experience matters. I have the experience and the commitment to continue my mission of making our community a better place to live, work, and play by protecting our community and serving the people of Winnebago County. I
Thank
ask for
you,
your
Scott.
vote on April 4th.
Okay, now we'll move on to the public questions. These are public policy questions that have been submitted in advance or tonight at the forum by the public. You will each have 1 minute to respond to each of our questions, and we're going to start with Karen asking a question of Lakeisha.
And this just came to me, so it's hot off the press. Lakeisha, what makes a judge a good judge?
Abiding by the oath that you take. That oath means something. And encompassed in that oath is the ability to remain impartial. You don't prejudge a matter. The ability to sit and listen and hear all of the evidence come in. To remain a constant student of the law. Constant, meaning that the laws are ever changing and the application of that law is ever changing. You have to have integrity. Our Supreme Court says it. The rules say it. Judicial ethics says it. There needs to be transparency, there needs to be communication, and there needs to be an ability to communicate, and to communicate effectively.
Thank you. Scott?
Essential qualities of a good judge. Number one, be prepared. Confidence that the judge knows the case, knows what the law is, uses intelligence as well as common sense. Two, be present. Be in the courthouse. Be available to the citizens of Winnebago County. Listen to both sides. Justice delayed is justice denied. If you're not there, cases aren't getting done. In my courtroom, I have 0 for a backlog. Winnebago, in the state of Wisconsin, 35,000 cases. Thirdly, be fair. Be free from bias and apply the law fairly. Understand the legislature makes the law, the judges only apply it to the facts. Preside over the courtroom fairly and listen to both sides.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to direct my first question to you, Scott. How much discretion does a circuit court judge have in applying the law after a jury has ruled?
Not much, because the jury is the finder of fact. Only if the jury has based their decision on something that isn't a fact in the case can the judge do something to overturn it. Other than that, the jury has spoken. The jury is the finder of fact. The court is the judge of the law only.
Okay, thank you. Lakeisha?
The judges have very little discretion to overturn a juror's verdict. And that is because that is what our system is made of. The court system is not made up for us to take our personal beliefs or outcomes and to try to maneuver a case so that you get to that personal outcome that you so wish. When the jurors make a verdict and they come back with that verdict after deliberation, a court has to, and it's strict, has to, unless there is some substantial basis not to, has to keep that verdict as it stands.
Thanks. Your turn.
And I believe we start with you. How will you how will you balance being an independent judge and an elected official?
Again, this goes back to personal beliefs and public opinion not being a place it should not be a place in the courthouse. And so as an elected official, I am a community servant. I'm a public servant. And so I owe everything to the community, protection of the community. But my independence as a judge and the balance that I must make is based on the oath that I have. It's based on the law. And it is never based on my personal outcomes that I wish to have happen. And so you can have that balance. You can absolutely be an elected official where you answer to your community, you meet their expectations, but you have to maintain that independence and you have to be a strict applicant of the law.
Thank you. Scott?
Actually, the Supreme Court rules mandate section 60.30 that judges shall avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all the judge's activities. The judge shall uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary. That's why we can't become party members. That's why we can't participate in partisan politics. A judge's life is a lonely life in that you can't really participate with the public in normal activity, normal conversations, because there's so many people that try to influence a judge. That's why there are strict rules with respect to campaigning. For instance, you're not supposed to say that you're a judge when you're not. That's misleading the public. So what I try to do in order to maintain that integrity of the court is,
Sorry, the time's
I
up.
thought that was someone's phone.
Well, technically it is, but it's also our timer. Okay, we'll move on to the next question then. Lakeisha, under what circumstances would you recuse yourself from a case?
I would recuse myself from a case if I have a conflict in the matter, if I have any financial stake in the matter, if I am personally connected with any of the parties, whether that be a brother, a sibling, a parent, or someone that I have a personal close relationship with. I would also recuse myself to avoid even the appearance of a conflict, because that's crucial. People are inherently distrusting of our judiciary. And when they cannot rely on our judiciary to do the right thing at the right times, even recusing themselves, then you're furthering that mistrust that they have of the judiciary. So whenever I even think that it may be questioned, or if I find that I cannot be impartial or fair, by the way, that has never happened, but if I do find that I'm incapable of doing that, that there is a personal conflict, if there's any other conflict that exists, I would recuse myself.
Thank you. Scott?
Once again, Supreme Court Rule, Chapter 60 and Wisconsin Statute 757.19 sent out the factors for recusal and disqualification. A lot of people use those terms interchangeable, say recusal, but actually it means disqualification under our statutes. Disqualification you have to do when you're related to one of the parties. Relative is a material witness. You acted as counsel to one of the parties previously. You prepared legal instruments which are at issue in the case. If you have a financial interest in the action, those are things you need to disqualify yourself from. But then there's also the catch-all if there's an appearance of impropriety. For instance, I can be in a case where I feel I can be fair. But if it looks to the outside public, to one of the litigants, that something's not happening right, for instance, if an attorney's involved, it's a divorce, and they come before you, that's something I would get off of it for that reason. It doesn't look right. Use the smell test.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think this is coming to you first, Scott. You are familiar with how responsibilities currently are divided in the Winnebago court system. Do you have any suggestions for changes in how the court works that might help improve efficiency?
It's a process that we continue on a month-to-month basis. Right now, we just recently moved a few years ago from month intakes to 2-week intakes. And the reason we did that is because the Supreme Court issued the McNeely case. In the McNeely case, they said that judges now for OWI cases have to actually do a search warrant, listen to what they're saying for a search warrant, and issue the search warrant. I was the first time in May on intake for a month. I had 25 nights in a row where I got a call for an OWI. And guess what time those happened? 2:30 in the morning. So we decided we would change it to go to a 2-week, so it's not killing the judges. If there's something that we have at a judges meeting that someone wants to change something to the betterment of the system, we do it.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
Thank you. Yes, I have a specific example of what changes could be made through, in the court system. Right now, Winnebago County has an intake system where the results end up being that you could really have, for example, a family that has juvenile hearings, they have their divorce proceedings, and then they have another type of case, and they could all be in separate branches. And so what ends up happening is that you have parties who have possibly 2 or more orders from a court that are conflicting, and they're not sure which one takes priority over the next. If we can make this system so that we don't separate cases into multiple branches, we don't have multiple orders coming from different judges and their competing orders, that would be efficiency. Because oftentimes, in my experience, not only as counsel who's practiced in 12 different counties, but as someone who's practiced in this county, you truly could delay the progress if you don't have efficiency.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to you first with this one, Scott. This is a submitted question just now. How would you handle child sexual assault cases in your courtroom? How have they been handled in the past? How would you handle them in the future?
Judges can't prejudge cases. So if you're asking me to give you an explanation of what I'm going to do on a specific case, a child sexual assault case, judges can't answer that question. It would be inappropriate for me to give you an answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. Lakeisha?
I would handle a child sex assault case the same way that I handle all of the cases. And that is to listen to all of the information that comes in, the arguments from the counsel. There would be a defendant who would have an ability, an opportunity, actually a constitutional right to speak, and the victim that also has the right to speak. And it is only until after all of that information has come in, and based on the offenses, the character of the defendant, and the goals that the court has, would I then hand down a sentence. But what I can tell you is that never in the history of me being a judge, today, tomorrow, or moving forward, will I ever refer to a child sex assault victim as a so-called victim. Every single person who walks into the courthouse, whether you're in my courtroom or another, you will get respect from me. Judges have to hold decorum, and it starts with you. You cannot expect anyone to come into a courtroom for decorum if you're not doing it yourself.
Thank you. I think it's up to you.
Okay. Lakeisha, can you share with us how the duties of court commissioners and family court commissioners dovetail with circuit court judges?
Yes, so one of the, I guess, more general ways that I attempt to explain the roles of the court commissioner versus the judges is that the court commissioners are able to handle those preliminary matters And specifically in Winnebago County, we have court commissioners, 3, 1 doing family court. We also have 1 who does a lot of the small claims actions and our injunction proceedings, and then a more criminal court commissioner. Those are the preliminary matters that come before the court commissioner, and it is the substantive issues that go before the judge. The orders that are made, the decisions are made by the judges. Those decisions that affect your life are made by the judges.
Thank you. Scott?
Interesting you should ask that question. She talks about people have spoken, made their decision. Well, the voters of this county, when she was a judge, have spoken. They voted her out. After that, she applied for 2 of those court commissioner judges, the ones that became judges. Notice she's not a court commissioner? She didn't get the job. The judges decide who's the court commissioner. She didn't get the job.
Are you answering the question, Scott?
Your question is, how are they different? My answer is, she wouldn't know the answer to that question because she hasn't been a court commissioner, because we wouldn't hire her as one.
Okay, thank you.
If I
We'll
may.
move on to our next question.
It's not the way it works. It's not a debate, it's a forum.
A forum
Scott.
in which you should answer the question and not decide that you're going to go on to an attack. A forum, not a
Both
debate.
of us.
Answer the question.
You make the decision.
I make the decision that we're moving on to the next.
Thank you.
I will be the judge tonight.
Good job.
I'd always wanted to say that. Okay, let's see. If you, as judge, observed a party in your courtroom being poorly represented by an unprepared or ineffective lawyer, what would you do about it? Scott?
I would, and I have, reported the attorney to the state. And in fact, the case she was talking about where I said so-called victim, that the attorney that had that case was the one who filed the complaint because he stopped practicing after I made a complaint about him. We have an obligation to make sure the people in front of us have their day in court. If they don't have an attorney that represents them and is doing a good job, I believe, at least in my courtroom, I need to do something about it, and I will.
Thank you. Lakeisha?
Thank you. I'll start out by saying in no way should a judge's actions be retaliatory in nature. But what we can do as judges, because words absolutely matter, is that you can have a conversation with that attorney. But the other thing is that we as officers of the court, as attorneys, as judges, we also have an obligation to report if we feel that an attorney's or judge's conduct is unethical, and that an official complaint can be filed so that they can be investigated, and from that investigation, move forward to a panel, and then the Supreme Court make a decision on that.
Thank you. You got one?
Sure. And Lakeisha, this comes to you first. Can you explain your judicial philosophy?
Yes. For judicial philosophy is, for me, what I know and what I expect is that we as judges need to respect separation of powers. And so with that separation of powers, it is my obligation as the judge, not the legislature, I'm not the district attorney's office, as the judge, my role is to, again, listen to the information and apply the law. In no way do I take the law, manipulate it, and try to apply it so that the outcomes are what I want. I don't have that authority. And what we do is we take our statutory authority, our case law, and then we apply it there. There's a reason that we have our Court of Appeals and we have our Supreme Court for checks and balances. And it's only my job to apply the law.
Thank you. Scott, can you explain your judicial philosophy?
As far as the philosophy, my philosophy is the same as the qualities of being a good job. Be prepared. You need to be prepared when you're on the bench. The only way I feel confident when I'm in court is if I feel I know more than anyone else in that courtroom. If I'm not there reviewing cases and know what the facts are in that case, know what the law is, I just don't feel comfortable in the courtroom. So first of all, it's be prepared, know your case, then be present. We have judges in our county that aren't there, that are part-time workers. This state has 35,000 cases in backlog. I don't have any. And then be fair. Understand that the legislature makes the law, not us as judges. Thank you.
Okay, this will, let's see. Yes, this will be our last question tonight. How would other attorneys describe your judicial temperament? We'll start with you, Scott.
I've been a judge for 19 years. I've handled over 30,000 cases. I've had over 190 jury trials. During that time as a judge, I'm sure that I've upset numerous people. Attorneys, I think, would say that I am the most prepared judge in Winnebago County. When they have a case where they need a decision and the right decision, they want to come to me. If you don't believe me, look what the DA's office says about me on my website about their letters, their endorsement of me. I have that reputation. Now, am I the nicest guy all the time? I don't sugarcoat it. I tell it the way it is.
Lakeisha?
Thank you. I have a proven reputation, my apologies, proven reputation of being a judge that is fair and partial. I'm an active listener. I wait until all of the information is received. I am thorough in my decisions. I am thorough in my explanation of my decisions that I make from the bench, and I am thorough in the application of the law. I too have been deemed as prepared, but what I have not ever done is believe that I know more than anyone else in that room. As I started this out saying, I have to be a constant student of the law, and that doesn't mean just in textbook, because you can learn from people, you can learn from attorneys, you can learn from litigants, and I never presume that I know all, that I am untouchable, and that what I say is gospel.
Thank you. With that, we are going to conclude our forum for the Winnebago County Circuit Court Branch 2. On Tuesday, April 4th, you may vote for one of these judicial candidates, Scott Wold or Lakeisha Hayes. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Everyone must show a voter ID with a photo on it. You may register when you go to vote on Election Day. Just take a proof of residence with you. You can go to myvote.wi.gov to find information on registration, ballot, acceptable photo IDs, and polling places. Go to vote411.org to learn more about the candidates. You may also consider voting early or absentee. Contact your city or town clerk for more information. This is a countywide job, after all. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County, I want to thank everyone for participating in this forum tonight, especially Karen, who has sat with me all night long. Thank you very much. And for all of you who have come, thank you. And some of you have been with us the whole night, too, so greatly appreciated. Remember, our democracy depends on citizen involvement. So what are you going to do on April 4th? Thank you.
Audience participation.
Yeah.